Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. In all the questioning about why young people don't hang out with each other as much as they used to, why are they so lonely? There's one hypothesis going around that it's the omnipresence of cameras on our phones. This idea that one video of you doing something embarrassing or saying something you shouldn't be saying could ruin your life. The new novel, Bad Asians, is set during the beginning of that phenomenon, when you could get famous for being messy on YouTube, but we didn't really fully realize what was in Pandora's box. In this interview with Here and Now Scott Tong, author Lillian Li talks about how the early internet, ironically, felt private in a way, and how naive we all were to think so. That's up ahead.
This message comes from Grainger. Grainger knows that as an HVAC technician, you and your digital multimeter are in high demand. So when a noisy office HVAC turns out to be a failing blower motor, you don't break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product information, you can select the product you need to keep everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This message comes from Instacart. Everyone prefers things a certain way, like groceries. If you want groceries just how you like them, you gotta try Instacart. They have a new preference picker that lets you pick how ripe or unripe you want your bananas. Shoppers can see your preferences up front, helping guide their choices. Because when it comes to groceries, the details matter. Instacart. Get groceries just how you like.
There's a new book out with a provocative title, Bad Asians. It centers around four friends, all Chinese American, who growing up were pressured to be the good Asians, get top grades, go to brand name colleges, graduate in high-powered jobs, till it all went off the rails for all of them, largely because they graduated in 2008 when the economy went poof, and that's when the book gets interesting. Lillian Li is author of Bad Asians, and she's here to talk about it. Lillian, good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
So, my confession, I'm reading this book, your book, about four friends from the same wealthy suburb of Washington, D.C., where I live, Justin and Errol and Vivian and Diana. And I'm nodding because I've lived this movie, Great Expectations. Do you draw some of this from your own life?
I did. I happened to grow up in also a hyper-competitive Chinese-American community in North Potomac, Maryland. There's actually a map at the very start of the book, and it is illustrated from a screenshot I took from my childhood neighborhood.
Wow. So I want to get to the action, right? These four young 20-somethings, the recession comes, they're stuck living with their parents for a while. One of their classmates from Potomac, Maryland, wants to make a video about these good Asians being bad Asians. Tell me what happens here.
This former classmate, Grace Lee, who was in some ways the golden child of their community. She's
the one who goes to Harvard, right? It's
exactly.
Like, wow. Yeah.
You cut right to the chase.
Yep.
Exactly. But she drops out of Harvard Law. She does this because she wants to become a filmmaker, which is just unheard of in their community. And when she asks the friends to be a part of her documentary about the recession, they agree out of, in some sense, schadenfreude. They want front row seats to this car wreck. They think she's blowing up her life.
Oh, yeah.
But then against all odds, this little film goes viral, and it's one of the first viral videos of the YouTube era. It skyrockets Grace to fame and the friend group into notoriety because they are portrayed as caricatures of themselves. And how I like to explain this video is, imagine the venting sessions you have about your closest friends, or you're just trying to let out a little bit of steam.
Yeah.
Now imagine that recorded and presented to millions of strangers.
Yeah, well, it's kind of obvious now in 2026, right? The internet is forever. Watch what you put online. But are you trying to tell a story about the early days of YouTube? Maybe how perhaps all of us were kind of naive about this at one point?
Absolutely. I was trying to capture that initial innocence that we all had, the sense that you were almost in a private room with your friends, rather than having it be this public forum that everyone across the world could attend. And I wanted to capture that private feeling the early internet had so that I could explain why my characters make these kind of insane decisions to put themselves out there and expose their true thoughts and feelings. But I think that's also why the video goes viral, is because of how authentically they behave when they think no one's really watching.
Yeah. As far as the Asian American stereotype, you take it and you kind of blow it up with these characters. They go off the rails on drugs, and their own relationships with one another blow up at a certain point. Their relationships with their parents, so important, get compromised. It's very dramatic, and I gather you're doing this on purpose.
I am, yes. I definitely wanted to also capture that period of your early mid-20s before your prefrontal cortex really matures, right? But you have access to freedom, outside of parental or an authority looking over you and your choices. And so I wanted my characters to make these decisions when they feel like they're kind of immortal and untouchable, and to come up against real permanent consequences.
If you're just joining us, we are talking to Lillian Li. Her new novel is Bad Asians. And Lillian, I wonder if you would read a small passage from the book. This is 229, and to kind of set it up, this is when this initial filmmaker, Grace has done these things and she's made her friends look bad. And then toward the end of your novel, she kind of repents a little bit and she's giving an interview. And I wonder if you can read a little from the interview, maybe starting with, "I wanted my Asian American viewers."
Sure thing. I wanted my Asian American viewers to think critically about how they grew up and what influences their choices. Are they chasing success for the sake of it? Are they doing whatever their parents tell them? Asian Americans are the most educated demographic with the highest median income, and yet we're also the least politically active. It's sickening how complacent and materialistic we can be. We have an incredibly important presidential election coming up this year. This is in 2016, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
And civil rights protests all over the country. Meanwhile, the people I grew up with are posting about their new condo or designer bag.
Yeah. And let me pause you there. Is that your voice?
I think that was my voice in 2016. And I wanted to put that outrage into Grace, but also put the naivete of that outrage, because it's very finger pointy. And meanwhile, as you mentioned, Grace has done all kinds of harmful things to the people that trust her in order to chase her own status symbols, her own success.
Yeah.
So I think it was me capturing a younger version of myself while also adding in the reflection of who I am now.
An important recurring theme in your novel is how much Asian American children can be shaped by their parents, right? In many cases, immigrant parents.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something, I guess, from your own experience, observing it, living it yourself, that you wanted to present to us?
Yes. So I grew up with the narrative that my parents came to America to give me a better life. And so there was always a sense of, I know, and it makes sense because it's a very useful way of getting me to do what they want. There's a lot of responsibility towards being the reward for their hard work. And as I came to be the same age as my parents when they came over, they were, mid-20s, I realized my parents came over for themselves. Like, they came over for, incredible educational opportunity. Yeah. They were some of the most ambitious, smartest people in China, and they came over because they wanted to rule the world. And that level of ambition, when they came up against the barriers of language and racism and xenophobia, they realized, within this generation, we can't access the ambition that we have burning inside us. And so the best we can do is pass that down to our kids and their kids. And I realized that the greatest cultural inheritance that I got from my parents was their ambition. And it's been something that I've been trying to unravel for myself and through my characters of what truly is my sense of ambition and success and what is theirs.
Yeah. And how easy is it to untangle one from the other? Just talking for me. Lillian, finally, what do you want your reader to take away? Your Asian American reader, your reader in general?
Before I ever knew that I wanted to write a book that was set in the '08 recession, I knew I wanted to write about friendship, and specifically friendship breakups. They don't seem to be talked about in the same way that we talk about our family or our romantic relationships, but they're a huge part of our day-to-day. And I realized that there were monumental friendship breakups in my life that I thought about for much longer than any romantic ones. And I had all these questions of, why do these friendship breakups stick with us? Is it because you can choose your friends, so the choice to unfriend is that much more devastating? Or is there even a sense of shame because when someone doesn't want to be your friend anymore, it's more of a potential commentary on your character? And I wanted to write a book that asked those questions of what holds a friendship together, why does a friendship end, and how might we even find our way back together again? And I think that Bad Asians, even if it doesn't fully answer those questions, hopefully readers feel less alone in asking those questions themselves.
The book, the novel, is Bad Asians, and we've been talking to the author, Lillian Li. Lillian, thanks so much for the time.
This was fantastic. Thank you.
This message comes from MIDI Health. Co-founders Joanna Strober and Dr. Kathleen Jordan discuss why they started a virtual care platform to empower and educate women in perimenopause and menopause.
Historically, perimenopause and menopause have been very stigmatizing. So people haven't wanted to admit that they're in perimenopause and menopause, as though it was embarrassing, which is insane. It's just something happening to your body. So one of the things that we're trying to do is destigmatize these topics. Perimenopause and menopause are just women's health. So we try to educate women all the time. Maybe it's your hormones, and we would like to help you.
Yeah, and I find women actually want to talk about it. It's one of the things they always comment at MIDI is that they finally feel heard. One of the ways that women find MIDI is actually from other women, and I think it's meaningful.
MIDI Health, committed to helping women in midlife with perimenopause and menopause care, accessible via telehealth visits at joinmidi.com.